Hello everyone, we're going to be looking at some things today. I don't really wear glasses inside, I just wanted to look really cool. So, a couple things I want to talk about, then we're going to look at the big three. We're going to look at Ripple. And before, I get all the comments about people loving Ripple and hating on Ripple, personally, I don't care what Ripple does right now. I'm just trading it because of the volatility and the attention it has and the volume. That's all I care about. So, looking at it just from a chart perspective, nothing fundamentally. So I'm going to be looking at those four. We're going to go over the usual TA, and then I'm going to look back at a trade I did yesterday because there was a point that I wanted to make that I left out in the last video, and it is a thing that people have a lot of trouble with, and it's a point I want to talk about. So a little bit of a trade review at the end, and I suggest sticking around for that because I think that can give some good pointers on some things. A couple things before we get into it. Seeing these articles about South Korean government inside trading, and everybody says no surprise, but we need to be clear that we have insider trading literally every single day in the United States where it is federally illegal, and there is a team, the SEC, there's a task force, FINRA, there's a task force to prevent it. It happens every single day. We are trading in an environment where it is legal to do. Let's be honest. If your friend worked on the development team for a coin and gave you some inside information, you're going to act on it too. So these articles are pointless. We just need to assume that there is insider trading on every single coin in every single country forever. It's always going to be happening. So we need to get over that, and really it's just a part of this space, and it always will be because it is unregulated, which is the point of it. Another point I want to make is, forget my other point. I'll come back to that. So let's get into the daily charts. So we have inside bars forming on these charts. We had a really nice bounce play out yesterday. I am currently sitting all cash after making multiple trades over the past 2 days. And what we're going to be watching is for the alert system to send out the inside bar break signal. And this bar is going to close here in not too long, a couple hours, an hour or two. And then we are going to look for a break of that bar to give us an indication. If we get a bear break of the daily inside bar, we are going to be looking at not a good scenario for the bulls. We're going to be looking back down towards the lows. That's pretty much worst case if you are in long positions and if you went fishing for some long positions. Personally, as a trader, I would love to see that happen. And not because I want to see people lose money, but if it happens, there's going to be some opportunity for significant gains again. If we get a bull break, then the bounce continuation goes underway, and we're going to be looking for some follow through. But we are still going to be anticipating lower highs on this time frame. So even if we see a bull break and we make a move up, anything on Bitcoin under 14,500 is a lower high on the daily time frame. So we could see a bull break and run to 14,000 and then pull back, and it's just another lower high. So what I need for the longer term daily chart to prove to me that the bulls are back in control, I need the bulls to top out and tire out. I need that lower high. And then I need a higher low and a higher high to indicate that the trend is changing back in favor of the bulls. So that's not going to happen overnight. That's not going to happen anytime soon. It's going to require multiple days of a higher low and then a higher high, indicating that change in the trend. So as far as, people wondering, is this the bottom? We could see that the bottom was likely in yesterday. I'm not saying that's the bottom of the dump. I was saying it's the bottom of yesterday. As far as whether or not the bulls are going to be able to take over from here, that remains to be seen. But I did say in a video recently that if you look on the weekly chart, this is a bull flag still. And I said we could go down to 7,000 and still be a potential bull flag. So I got all these lines here, but let's just draw these trend lines real quick where you have your breakout, which is your flagpole, and this is your consolidation channel, which is normal and healthy, very contained consolidation. You show me this chart on a stock or on anything, I say that's an extremely bullish chart. It looks like a bull flag, and I'm going to be looking for continuation. So at this point, that's where I stand on a long-term outlook. It's going to require a break of 9,000 and lower lows to lose the potential of this bull flag pattern on the weekly time frame. So as far as the weekly time frame goes, the longs have nothing to worry about. Occasionally, I'll get a friend message me and I'll have to talk them off the ledge in terms of selling their long-term positions. And I always say, just look at the weekly chart. This is normal consolidation. The daily chart is still bearish until we see a higher low and a higher high. We're watching the inside bars. Personally, after all of the computer screen time the past 2 days, you can tell the market's slowing down. The bull moves this morning did not have the same emphatic continuation and fast moves, quick gains. So I did trade Ethereum this morning and I traded a little Bitcoin in the afternoon. And then I just stopped because it's not giving me the kind of follow through that I want. And the last thing I'm going to do is give back any of those gains for the past 2 days. I'm holding on to those and I'm waiting for setups that are very clear that I'm very comfortable in, and they aren't here right now. So things are slowing down. We're reaching this inside bar on the daily. It's common for inside bars to see declining volume, declining trading range, and the opportunity for trading within an inside bar equilibrium pattern forming is much less. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get off the computer after I'm done this and go about life and go to the gym and go get some food. And I know that my alert system will let me know when this inside bar breaks, and I'll be able to act on that. So let's zoom in to the shorter term time frames, the 4-hour chart. In the video yesterday, it's pretty much played out very well in terms of what we were anticipating. I was anticipating the top of the 4-hour time frame. I think in the video yesterday I said around, I think I gave the levels on Ethereum, but I was looking for a lower high on the 4-hour time frame and then the bulls needing to consolidate and form a higher low. So overnight we got that higher low, and then we saw the bulls take back over. So the fact that Bitcoin formed a 4-hour higher low and higher high is significant to me. So just like I said on the daily time frame, had we not done this, I would not be trusting the bulls. But the fact that we got that higher low and higher high does start to shift the momentum and does have us look for the bulls to remain in control for today, which they have done. Now we are rejecting from these exponential resistances. Again, these are the 12 and 26 period exponential resistances that are by default on GDAX. I love them on the hourly time frame. I decided to leave them up for the 4-hour, and look where we're rejecting. A perfect rejection from that level, and we're now consolidating. Anything above 10,687 is a higher low on this 4-hour time frame, keeping those bulls in absolute full control. So there's no red flags. We're seeing declining volume right now. This current candlestick is going to close at, let's see, it'll close at 7, so it might still have 2 hours to go here. So 2 hours to go, we might see increasing volume. If that's the case, and it's a close near the low of the candlestick, that would be a bit of a red flag if we do see increasing bear volume. So that's something to keep an eye on, but as long as we see a bullish reversal candlestick above this level, our higher low, that's just fine for the bulls. Zooming into the hourly time frame, this is why I was cautious this morning. So I woke up with the East Coast at about 6 a.m. And at that point, we had already seen, 3 or 4 green hours in a row. So I did make some bullish plays, but I recognized this hourly chart likely needs to consolidate soon. So I'm going to be quicker to take my profit. I was adjusting my expectations on my bullish entries. Yesterday I was much more keen to let it ride for a more significant gain than I was this morning because, number one, the volume really slow and steady, and just the fact that we needed hourly consolidation had me a lot more cautious and take profit a lot sooner on my morning trade of Ethereum. So here on the daily or on the hourly time frame, we just formed our higher low, and the bulls tried to see continuation. We couldn't get a higher low. We formed a lower high and now a lower low. So this is telling us that that 4-hour consolidation is following through again. This was the red flag breaking 11,520. And personally, I would want to be all cash as a short-term trader because that level did break. So we have 2 resistances on the hourly. I'm looking at 11,995. Might as well call that 12,000 psychological. So 12,000 and then 12,123. And this bull break that we did have here was a bit unique to GDAX. And if you saw this volume, the volume that we saw in a 1-minute candlestick was the most that I have ever seen. And just like volume climaxes signal the bottom and we look for bounces, volume climaxes signal the top. Look at this 1-minute time frame. That's 969 Bitcoin in 1 minute. That is a whale with a large market order triggering a key resistance break of 12,000 and a bunch of stop buys being triggered at the same time. So it's not all one person, but it was definitely one big whale triggering that momentum. I took my eyes off for a minute. And the fact that I looked back and saw, wow, we just ate through $10 million of Bitcoin in 1 minute. It's pretty astounding. But that volume climax signaled the top. Look at that on the 5-minute time frame. I'll find it here in just a minute. So look at that volume spike. That is the top of this move right now. Volume climaxes often signal the top of an uptrend or the bottom of a downtrend. And that's because all of the bull buying momentum was used up. So you figure everybody's waiting to buy if 12,000 breaks. Everybody buys in with their stop orders. Who's going to be left to buy at 12,200? Everybody had already bought in that was going to be buying in. And so now we're consolidating. The hourly time frame, actually the 5-minute time frame, is close to getting oversold. We have not seen dips deep into the 5-minute oversold levels here. So it's worth watching for the potential of a bounce. Look at this 15-minute time frame, getting close to oversold. We have been bouncing off of 15-minute oversold the couple times that we've touched it recently, but we haven't touched it since we had the bull break. So we are looking at a short-term bullish entry. If I were going to be playing this bounce here, I would be locking in my gains short-term because I wouldn't be expecting any kind of trend change. I would be looking for just an oversold bounce, and we're probably going to get this occurring and playing out while I'm live here. So let's see, this 5-minute RSI is about to touch 30. If I were scaling in, and I'm not going to try and do it while I'm live here because I wasn't planning on it, and I will not be on my A game, but we've got a support down here. I can recognize support at 11,170. We're approaching that level. But if I were looking to get in here, I would be starting to scale in. And again, ensuring that I keep some cash in case things get brutal. But scaling in, let's say I would be using the order book, but 11,255, 11,210, 11,155, 11,110, just small and steady the whole way down, ensuring that I have some cash in case we see this 5-minute RSI drop down to 20 and see the 15-minute RSI get oversold. So where we stand right now, the bears have control of the short-term timeframes, and we're looking for a 4-hour higher low to be set. And I do think that we could see a nice bounce opportunity here in the very near-term future. So that's it for Bitcoin. Let's go back to Ethereum. Ethereum on the daily time frame, inside bar. It's a doji right now of indecision. The volume, not even comparable to the bounce and dump volume because we are consolidating. And so it's the same thing. I'm waiting for the alert to give me, I'm waiting for my phone to blow up with the alert system saying bear break of 951 or bull break of 1,100. The 4-hour time frame, same thing. We topped out. We hit the exponential resistance, and now we're pulling back. Anything above 951 is a higher low on the 4-hour time frame. We did get our 4-hour bullish MACD crosses down here, which gave us some further confidence into this morning. But as of right now, we are pulling back, and I can tell now that we are going to see increased volume on this 4-hour candlestick. So definitely need to be cautious of that. The last consolidation that we saw, inside bar bear break to let us know we were not done consolidating. It was declining bear volume, which is a good sign for the bulls. This is increasing bear volume. Again, we have to see the shape of the candlestick. If this candlestick ends up with a nice long lower wick, we know a lot of that volume is bulls buying the dip. It's not as big of a deal as if we close down near the low and it's increasing bear volume. That shows a lot of bear momentum. Zooming in on the hourly time frame here, watching very similar correlations to Bitcoin, of course. We had a double top essentially, 1,100, and then we topped out at 1,098, and there was a lot of coins on that ask, and we rejected. And as soon as we lost that hourly higher low, the bears started taking over. So that break of $1,044.90 was a signal that if I were in a swing position, I would even take that swing position off just because I know that I could reload lower as we pull back. So here on the 5-minute time frame, there's our bullish reversal candlestick from 5-minute oversold. Checking back in on Bitcoin, oversold bounce is attempting to play out now. So on this 5-minute oversold bounce, we have to see a higher low and a higher high on this 5-minute to show the reversal in effect. Right now, we can't be confident that our low is in just yet until we see our lower high, higher low, higher high, reversing the momentum back to the bulls. But this is the kind of move where, you can see some quick short-term gains and lock it in is what I would be doing, as that has been the theme of my videos over the past few days, which allows me, and again, I know a lot of you have already seen these videos, but check the YouTube channel. There's a couple live trading examples of how I have been playing this dump and these bounces and, taking the account up significantly while the entire market is dropping down. So while people that are not using technical analysis are panicking and wondering if they need to sell their long positions, people that are using technical analysis have the ability to profit in this environment, which is very, very empowering, and it's very, very comforting. And to know that, it's no big deal. If we're dumping, you can make profit. If we're breaking out, you can make profit. It really just helps erase those emotions with that confidence. And that confidence comes with experience. And of course, education comes before all of that. So education leads to experience, which leads to confidence, which leads to eliminating all of those emotions. So here's Ethereum on the 5-minute time frame trying to bounce. I would be looking back at where I can find some support. I see the next 15-minute support is down at 993, so 1,000 psychological support. There's a solid amount of bear volume here on this 15-minute time frame. Look at the bull volume on the way up, and look at the bear volume we've been seeing in the second half of today. There is some solid bear volume here. Looking at it on Bitcoin as well, and not as significant on Bitcoin, so that's interesting to note. Well, it's roughly the same. The bars just look a little bit different. They're skewed because of that one big volume bar that we saw. But again, that volume was a big indication of why I was confident the low was in yesterday. And this volume is definitely having cautious and patient on any reentry that I'm making because we are significantly pulling back. So same thing as Bitcoin, looking for a 4-hour higher low, need a bullish reversal candlestick. And once the hourly time frame and the 15-minute time frame start giving me those higher lows and higher highs, I'll have confidence that our 4-hour higher low is then set at that point. So Litecoin is going to be much of the same, going to go through fairly quickly. We have an inside bar on the daily time frame, declining volume, showing that tightening range. 4-hour chart got a little bit higher above these exponential resistances, but unfortunately for the Litecoin bulls, they are tied to Bitcoin, and if Bitcoin's going to pull back, Litecoin's going to go with it regardless of what bullish break we make. So again, that's why I'm constantly watching Bitcoin. And the past 3 days, all of my trades, besides today I traded Bitcoin once, but all of my trades have been Ethereum trades, and all of them have been staring at the Bitcoin chart. I stare at the Ethereum order book, and I stare at the Bitcoin chart to make all of my decisions. So here on Litecoin, the higher low to hold is 176.35. Anything above that level, it's actually 176.31. Anything above that level is a higher low, keeping the bulls in control. We look at the hourly chart. We lost the higher low pattern when we broke 198.10, and now we're heading back down. The 5-minute RSI is oversold, increasing bear volume here. Looks like the bottom is not in yet on this dump, which is why I would be scaling in. And again, I'm not going to see this first initial little fake out of a bounce and say, oh, there goes the bounce, and cancel all my orders and market order to try and get in. That's how you get yourself into trouble. If you start to scale in and only, half of your position gets filled, just play that half position and get profit on that half position, but it allows you to be protective. So let's say at this point, I would only have filled 1, maybe 2 of my orders, and I'd still have another 4 or 5 orders down here in case things get to extreme oversold levels. And if this RSI does drop down to 20 on the 5-minute time frame, I am going to get into some trades while I'm live here. So Litecoin, again, 4-hour higher low, same thing as Ethereum and Bitcoin. And I do anticipate that we will form a higher low if this trend falls apart for the bulls. In my opinion, go back to Bitcoin. In my opinion, it's going to be a bounce forming a higher low on the 4-hour time frame, an attempt to get back to where we were, a lower high, and then a lower low. That is, in my opinion, what will give us the signal that the bears are back in full control and this bounce is running out of momentum very quickly. So I do anticipate that we will form a higher low. The question is going to be, can the bulls then head to a higher high? Ripple has had a really nice bounce. This is the Ripple weekly chart. This is extremely strong. We ran a huge amount in a month. We pulled back a very significant amount, but that's to be anticipated. When the cryptocurrency boom was going on over the summer, I expected this kind of action a lot sooner than we got it in terms of Bitcoin doing this on the weekly time frame. Seeing a huge breakout and then giving back over 50% of the move, but still looking very bullish, and it just didn't really do that, but it's doing that now. And we're seeing Ripple do it with our new must-hold support of 85 cents, but I would look for an equilibrium pattern on this weekly chart from here. I would look for a bounce to follow through, and I'd look for a lower high to be set in the low $2 range. Of course, it's going to depend on what Bitcoin's doing, but this normal pattern, if this was a stock chart or any chart, I would say look for an equilibrium pattern. Our low is set, look for a lower high and then a higher low and a tightening weekly pattern to play out for at least another 3 to 4 weeks. So zooming into the daily chart, really nice bounce. The top right now is 172, rounding a bit. So now to change this trend back in favor of the bulls, no surprise that we're setting a lower high here. If we were going to not set a lower high, we would have to break 225, and that is certainly not to be anticipated, a 200% move from the bottom. So a lower high is anticipated. To change this daily trend back in favor of the bulls, we need a higher low on consolidation and then a break to a higher high. That's the theme of this video. For the bulls to take back over on any trend, it's not just the bounce that we care about, it's how we react after the bounce. Can we set a higher low and a higher high? So that's what I'm watching for on Ripple. I've been playing XRP BTC on this bounce for some pretty nice gains and just anticipating that we're going to need to pull back. And here on the 4-hour time frame, we still have a clear higher low pattern. I'm looking down at support of 127. This is the low of this consolidation candlestick. Look at this nice 4-hour inside bar. Again, alert system with these inside bars would have sent that one out at 146, 1465, and then we ran up to 169. So a nice 15% plus move on that inside bar signal. So now we're pulling back. Ideal if the bulls can hold 147, but that's not a must hold level. I'm still using this low back here because we're not done consolidating in this period. We haven't set a higher low yet. So looking at the hourly, well, actually we can use this level. So glad that I zoomed in for more details. If this level is lost, we do lose the hourly higher low pattern. I would anticipate we're likely going to lose this because Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin all already lost their higher low support on the hourly time frame. We're on the verge of a bearish MACD cross on the hourly. If that level breaks of 1475, we're looking down at 127. It would be great if the bulls could hold that level, but not going to be holding my breath for them to do so due to the correlations overall. The fact that they're still holding on, though, pretty good sign. Let's check in on this bounce now on the 5-minute time frame. Bulls still trying, still not convincing. Could see another leg down. The RSI barely got oversold on the 5-minute time frame. So again, I would be in no rush to have a full position on this bounce yet. The Ethereum drop got more oversold into the mid 20s. And one thing that I've been doing is I scale into my position, and then if I have a fat position, you know, a decent amount of my account, I'm going to scale out of a portion of that position on the initial bounce attempt. And what that does, it gives me a lot of wiggle room. I then am instantly already profitable, so that lowers my cost basis before I hit break even on the remainder of my position. And it allows me to be really calm and collected. I locked in some profit. I gave myself more wiggle room. Now let's see if we can get some more for the remaining position that I have. So that's something that I will do very often. Even if I have a goal of a significantly higher sell level, I will sell a bit of that early on into the move to give me that wiggle room to see that move play out. So we have inside bars forming on the 5-minute time frame right now to try and see if the bulls can get a bit of a bounce of follow through. And I'm going to keep an eye on Ripple here for the next hour to see if they can hold this higher low. That would be a great sign if they could do that. So the trade I want to go over from yesterday is the dump on Ethereum. I put out that tweet and that twit that said, you know, I was very confident that the bounce was going to get more significant and that we were going to see follow through and that the low of the day was in. So I headed back to the computer after lunch and I saw that we were in consolidation mode. And this is Ethereum on the 15-minute time frame back on that initial bounce and initial consolidation. So I pointed out in yesterday's video, I loved the block of bull volume that showed accumulation to me on Bitcoin. It showed accumulation on Ethereum as well. Look at the consolidation volume. Very, very low bear volume comparative to the bull volume. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So I came back and I sat down at my computer after taking profit on the initial move up, and I knew I wanted a re-entry because I was confident that we were going to establish this higher low and finally see some follow through on a bounce. And I looked at the 5-minute time frame to time my re-entry. And a lot of people don't like stop losses because they stop them out all the time and then they feel like the move keeps going without them. That's a valid point, but again, I cannot stress enough that if you want to be a successful trader long term, you have to use stop losses. If you don't have control of your risk to reward scenario, and you're not going to be able to manage your risk the way that you need to do this long term. So what I did, let's try that again. So I find that a lot of people, once they get stopped out, they then write off the trade and that's it. Once you get stopped out, that tells me to pay closer attention and look for a re-entry if you are very confident. I got stopped out of my initial position and I got stopped out right near the bottom, but I knew what I was anticipating the chart to do. I knew that I wanted to get back in. So here is how it played out. We saw consolidation. The low of consolidation hit 850. We then saw a lower high, lower low pattern continue. We then had a higher low. So I entered initially here using 850 as my protection. And I said, all right, if 850 breaks, I'm going to exit this trade because that means we're going to consolidate further and I could get a better entry. Or that also means I might be wrong and maybe we're not going to see a higher low and maybe this bounce is not going to continue following through. So I got my position right here and we saw another lower high. And here I wanted to see a higher low and a higher high to break this little equilibrium pattern on the 5-minute time frame bullish and to give us the follow through that I was looking for. We didn't get that. I stopped myself out at 850. So at 850, I sold into the support wall as I saw it was breaking, and I exited at 850, and the low of the pullback was 841. 5 minutes later, after I stopped out, as I'm still staring at the chart, I said, uh-oh, that might be a little fake out there. The bulls are showing back up exactly as I anticipated that they would. We broke the lower high pattern. So as soon as 880 broke, that told me I need to get back in this trade because it's going to leave without me. So I got a worse position than I had initially. But again, that doesn't mean I'm going to write off my position and call it quits. I re-entered. And that's what I'm finding a lot of people have a lot of trouble with, is once they're stopped out, knowing when to re-enter. So at this point, I was using a full position. I got stopped out at 850. I said, oh, geez, we just broke the lower high pattern. This looks great. Like the bulls are turning things around now. I need to get back in. So I stopped out at 850 and I rebought at 880. That's a $30 loss right off the bat. I was fine taking that loss because I knew what my risk to reward scenario was. And I knew that my reward scenario was very high as I was anticipating a break of 931. My initial target was in the 950s. So I said, if I get back in at 880 and we get to the 950s as I'm anticipating, I am going to be looking at a $70 profit after a $30 loss. That's more than makes up for that. So of course, I'm not going to sit there saying, oh, I can't re-enter now because I just sold cheaper and now I'm having less coins. And, all that's not running through my head. The only thing running through my head is the move's now playing out like I want it to, or like I expected it to. I need to get back into my position and get coins again. I didn't dilly-dally around and try and get limit orders. I went full-on market order to get back in. I pay a ton of fees in market orders, but it allows me to utilize my trade strategy, and it results in profit that is way more significant than the fees end up being. But I pay a ton of fees by using market orders. I will never shy away from a trade, and I will never miss a trade because I'm trying to use limit orders to avoid the fees. So I re-entered on the 880 break on a market order. We consolidated, and then it was off to the races. Exactly the follow-through we were looking for. I had a target of 950. I took my initial profit in the 950s, and then I let it ride, and I took the last of my profit in the 1050s, and it ended up being a way bigger trade than I had hoped for. And obviously that put that risk to reward scenario much more in favor of reward and made it even more of a reason that I should have gotten back in. So bottom line is I stopped myself out. I ended with a small loss on that stop out. It was very protective. That wasn't a big loss, but the fact of re-entering $30 higher for a significant amount less coins was definitely, the kind of thing that most people would not do. They would say, oh man, I just got stopped out. I need to take a step back and reassess the situation. But I knew 5 minutes after I got stopped out that I had made a mistake, and I reacted to correct that mistake and be in on that follow-through move that I was looking for. So let's see how this bounce is playing out now on Bitcoin. Still not ready. Again, this 5-minute RSI is still not getting extended to the point to have us comfortable. But now that the 15-minute RSI is about to get oversold, that's when we can get comfortable in terms of anticipating the bottom of this pullback is approaching. And here goes Ethereum losing that higher low on the hourly as anticipated. But it is holding up more bullish. The correlation is a slightly more bullish one for Ripple compared to Bitcoin. So that's what we've got. Again, it's all about the 4-hour time frames for tonight. The daily inside bars and the 4-hour time frames are all that I'm watching. That's Ripple's daily, but I'm watching the inside bar. Speaking of Ripple's daily, a nice inside bar bull signal would have gone out on the alert system at 138 to 172. Love these inside bars. So I'm going to be watching the daily inside bars for Bitcoin. Let's see, one other point I want to make. Oh, I know what it was. So just a tip, a life tip. If you want to do some brainstorming, whether it's business ideas or anything on life, I have found that in my life, floating in hot water, it makes a significant difference. The vast majority of epiphanies that I have in my life are either in a hot tub or a bathtub. And I'm a bathtub kind of guy. So I almost want to make it a requirement for the Chart Guys company to have all 7 or 8 of us, give them a vacation day once a week. But on that vacation day, you have to sit in a bathtub or a hot tub for at least a half an hour, only brainstorming on projects related to the company. I cannot stress this enough. I'm just going back to literally being in a hot tub and having an epiphany saying, Ethereum, I need to go in. At that point, I had a certain amount of money, and I said, I'm going to increase that amount of money 1,000%, and I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go high risk, high reward. Let's do it. You only live once. I'm comfortable if I lose all that money. And it obviously ended up playing out. But just in terms of the amount of ideas for the Chart Guys and the amount of ideas generally in life, give it a try. Hang out in a hot tub or a bathtub and really, put some effort into brainstorming, even if you're just manifesting and envisioning what you want for the future. That's something I did very often, where I would be sitting there saying, just thinking, Ethereum is going to be hitting triple digits. Ethereum is going to be going to $500. And I'm not saying that I'm the reason it did it, but it is certainly a very positive thing. Don't know why I wanted to share that, but baths. So, as always, do good things. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.